Over the last 5 years, I've been on this journey of just learning how to teach myself to be a more tidy and more clean person. I've told you guys the story before. I'm definitely not somebody who's just like a naturally clean person. I used to be so much messier than I am now. I used to have like constant clutter all of the time, and it was so overwhelming to me. I never felt like I could take care of it. I never felt like I had time to do it, and it drove me crazy. It was like weighed on me. It weighed on like my mental health. And then finally one day I instated my kitchen sink roll, which if you don't know what that is, I'll link a video about my kitchen sink roll down below. And that was sort of like the domino that set everything into effect and really started to set me on the path to being somebody who's a lot more organized and tidy and clean. And over the last 5 years, as I've sort of gone through this slow journey, I have learned a lot of things that have really helped. I've shared a lot of stuff on this channel through my journey. Ultimately, I feel like at the end of the day, the biggest thing I've learned that has changed me the most has just been adopting little routines and habits into my life to sort of naturally and habitually make me somebody who keeps my space tidier. And I've also had some failures along the way as well, you know, but I sort of learned from them, was able to reevaluate and sort of readjust the wind in my sails, if you will, and sort of set myself on a new path and like find new solutions from there. But I feel like ultimately, at the end of the day, I've really come to one big conclusion about being a tidier person. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good my routines are, it doesn't matter how good my habits are, it doesn't matter how sensational and epic my organization bins are. If I have too much stuff in my home, I will never be able to stay tidy. And I think that this is a battle that a lot of us face. I think probably most of us can agree that we have some type of excess clutter in our home. I think that, you know, in general, we're really sort of like battling a war on clutter in some ways. And I think it's just because like we have such access to so much stuff. It's so easy for stuff to get into our home. We can order something online and it can be here the next day. There's just so many means of things coming into our home that so many of us just end up with this extra stuff and nowhere to put it. Now, clutter is much different than hoarding, right? We all know about hoarding, and it's something that's actually been classified as a psychiatric disorder nowadays, and it's estimated that like around less than 5% of people struggle from actual hoarding. Clutter, on the other hand, is something that affects like the mass population. There's been some studies that have shown that like as many as 90% of people that were surveyed said that clutter impacts their life. So this is something that a lot of us are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. You're not alone with the clutter in your house. And I feel like the more clutter that we're accumulating, the more and more apparent it's becoming how much it's impacting our lives. I mean, there's been such a growth in clutter in people's homes that there's just been like countless studies about how clutter is impacting us. It impacts our wallet because we're buying things that we already own because we can't find it, and then we're buying storage solutions and bookcases and bins and bigger houses to store all of our stuff that we need. But excess clutter also actually impacts our health. Having excess clutter in your home is directly linked to excess stress, excess anxiety. It has proven to decrease somebody's productivity. There have even been studies of people who define their home as cluttered or as having too much stuff, and these people actually have higher cortisol levels than people who don't classify their homes that way. And cortisol, if you don't know, is the stress hormone. It's literally so directly related to our stress and anxiety. And I know that people want to take control of it, but we can't. Like, why can't we get control of our clutter? We know it's impacting our life, and we know that overall this clutter is not actually doing us any favors. And going back to my point of this video, if you have too much stuff, you'll never be able to keep your home tidy. You may think that, you know, you may try to tidy your home, you may try to follow some of the routines, you may adopt some of the mantras or like read some of the books, and then you just can't get on top of it. You think that you failed, you're just a messy person. But it's just because if you have too much stuff, you're never going to be able to be like super tidy, right? Think about you're picking up your house and you go to put away the scissors and the junk drawer is full of stuff. You don't have any space to put the scissors in, right? You're tidying up in the bathroom, you go to put your toothbrush away and there's like no room in the drawer for the toothpaste. This is one of the biggest culprits ultimately that leads to our space being untidy, is that we just don't have space for all our dang stuff. And in my now about 5-year journey into trying to be a more tidy, organized person, clutter is still something that I struggle with all the time, especially as a mother. Like I said, I have 2 small children. There's a lot of stuff, right? There's toys and there's baby equipment, and you need the like diaper stuff and the creams and the ointments, and there's just all sorts of stuff. So I recently have really been focusing on how I can decrease my stuff and live with less, to like, it's like the cherry on top of my journey into being more tidy. And certainly I have no plans on becoming a minimalist, you know, by the terms of minimalist, but I definitely have found that too much stuff in a space is the #1 culprit of a space becoming untidy too quick. And if I want to be tidy, I need to learn how to have less stuff. You know, I can adopt all of the routines and the habits that I want, and I have. You know, I can learn how to never go to bed with my kitchen sink dirty. I can learn how to have my morning routines of emptying the dishwasher and getting dressed every morning. I can make sure that everything in my home has a place, but at the end of the day, if there's too much stuff for me to maintain, I'm never going to be able to stay on top of it. You know, and I think this is the big reason a lot of us sort of give up on any of our efforts to become more tidy or more clean, because we adopt the routines, we adopt the habits, but then, you know, we don't stay on top of it. We can't, you know, we buy the storage bins, but we can't keep them organized. You do all the things right, but then you just feel like you can't get on top of it, and it's probably just because you have too much stuff for a single person to try to get on top of. I think the biggest thing with clutter is just how never ending it feels, right? So imagine you take one weekend, you buy a whole dumpster, you put it out on your lawn, and you spend the entire weekend just decluttering your space, right? You get rid of all of the excess. And on Monday morning, you wake up and your space feels great. You don't have all of this excess stuff. But then like little bit over the next few weeks, things are going to come into your home, right? New things are gonna come in. You're gonna get mail, you're gonna get packages, you're gonna bring home something home for like some project you need to do. You gotta, whatever, fix the door, and you get a screwdriver, whatever. Things are gonna start to come back into your home. For so many of us, the only like main routine we have for things leaving our home is like taking out the trash, right? We take out the trash every day or every other day or whatever. But you have way more means of things coming into your space than going out. And then we do these one big massive declutters like once a year or whatever, but the clutter is always slowly coming in. So in reality, instead of sitting around and waiting till it's accumulated to a point of overwhelm, we should really look at ways that we can be actively removing it as quickly as it's coming in. I bet you'd be surprised if you took an inventory of everything that entered your home in 1 week. It would probably be really eye-opening. And I bet if you kept an equal log of how much stuff left your home in a single week, the enters log would be much longer than the leaves log. So really what the goal is to try to make the what enters your home log be equal to the what leaves your home log, so that we've got, you know, some good balance. So I want to share with you 4 little things that I have found that have helped me in sort of my journey to have less. And like I said, this has really been a journey for me. I've shared so much of it with you guys. I'm certainly not perfect when it comes to cleaning and organization and decluttering and minimalism. I've really just sort of shared the journey with you guys. And while there's some things that I feel like I've gotten really, really good at and I've sort of perfected, there's always things that I'm working on. And so these are the things that I've really found have been helping me on my journey to sort of get better about having less. Number 1 is to declutter something every single day. All of this clutter didn't come into your house in 1 day, right? Like I said earlier, it trickles in slowly. And so you're not gonna get rid of it all in 1 day either. A better way to tackle it is to know the clutter is slowly coming into our home. And so we should be actively, slowly getting rid of clutter as well. And then you sort of end up with a balance, right? In my 30-day cleaning challenge, I'll link that ebook down below. I have one of my things that you do every day is a 10-minute declutter. This is a 5, but I mean 10. Every day you set an alarm for just 10 minutes and you declutter something in your space. That's why I find making just a conscious effort to declutter one thing a day, it doesn't solve the problem entirely, but it's a really doable action. Not to mention, I find that adopting the habit starts to just sort of alter how you function around your clutter. As you start to declutter one thing every day, you're gonna do it just naturally, habitually. you're going to become more prone to decluttering. It's kind of how our bodies work. So you'll really start to look at your stuff differently. You'll start to question things that you bring into your home more. Do I really need this? Am I going to be just decluttering this in a couple of weeks? Number 2 is really to understand that it's progress over perfection when it comes to getting less in your home and learning how to be more tidy. Like I said earlier, I think lots of times we try to adopt some routines, or we get this great organizational structure in our pantry or whatever, and then it falls apart and we just assume it's because we're just messy, we're disorganized, we're too scatterbrained, we don't have the time to take care of it, like we're just not going to be able to do it. And it's because I think a lot of us think that, you know, our path to becoming organized or clean or tidy is just like gonna go like this, right? Like we're messy now and we're just gonna whoop, go right up and we're gonna be clean. But the truth is, the progress is gonna be like progress in pretty much any other thing that you're gonna succeed in life. You're gonna kind of like do this and then like go like that and then maybe up and then down a little bit. And eventually you're gonna make your way there. But it's not gonna be this clear path to success. It's not gonna be some clear shot. You know, maybe you start here and you've gone like this, and then you did this, and you went over, and you know, maybe right now you're here, you know, and you're looking at it and you're like, I didn't shoot right up. No, you didn't, but you started here and now you're here, and that is progress. And I think you really got to stay on top of that. I think focusing on that progress and making sure you look at, you know, this is where I was, I have made some progress, I'm cleaner here, I keep this more organized, I'm better about doing this. It's going to keep that stamina you need to stick with it, because at the end of the day, nobody sticks with something if they think they're going to fail at it. You need to have some belief that you're going to succeed. And one of the steps to doing that is just like looking at some of the progress you've made. Okay, I'm not all the way up here, but I've gone from here to here, which means I can go from here to here, which means I can go from here to here. It's that belief that you will get there. All right, number 3 is really just learning how to part with things. This is, again, it's gonna be like a progress over perfection thing, because it's not like one day you're just gonna learn how to part with all of your stuff. Most of us are gonna slowly learn how to par back. When I first started decluttering, you know, I decluttered a little, and now I'm better at letting go of more and letting go of more. And so you're gonna slowly get better. It's like cut back more and cut back more and cut back more. In learning how to part with things, I mean, that's a whole, I mean, people have written entire books about how to learn to part with things, right? The thing that I think has helped me the most is the idea of Swedish death cleaning, which if you have no idea what that is when I say that, I'll link the video down below I did about it. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, we accumulate so much stuff for a lot of reasons, but I think the biggest reason, like the biggest culprit of our stuff, is we keep a lot of things because we think we might need it. We keep the pair of shoes because we might have to go to a wedding sometime and wear those nice shoes. We keep the ball of twine because, I don't know, what if we need to like tie something up sometime? We keep that random battery because we don't really know what it goes to, but one day we might find what it goes to and then we'll need the battery for it. It doesn't seem like it when you just say it, but it is actually really hard to get rid of things. And this is one of the reasons that I think it's just like a slow progress. You'll start with getting rid of a few things. When you feel how easy and how beneficial it is, it'll sort of push you to maybe get rid of a little bit more. You know, I have found with me through all of my years of slowly purging and decluttering and learning how to be better about not having so much stuff, I have gotten rid of a lot of stuff, and there have been only a very few times that I've regretted something I got rid of, or like I got rid of it and then I needed it later, whether I actually like really regretted it or I was just like, I guess I'll go buy another ball of twine because now I need it. I have found that I have been able to look at my stuff when I'm trying to get rid of something, and I challenge myself to really think like, do I really want to be the keeper of this? Right? Do I want to be the person who has to maintain this stuff? You know, I have to commit to a life where I'm going to be the keeper of these things, and that's going to take a lot of my time and space and home, constant organization, and keeping tabs on where everything belongs, right? Because if I'm going to keep something, it's because I might need it later, so I need to be organized enough so that if I do need it, I can find it. And what I've really realized is I would rather not be the keeper of things. I'd rather not have to expend the energy to maintain all this stuff and inventory. I would rather let it go, and then someday down the line, if I have to buy a ball of twine, I will. But I didn't have to waste all this excess time in my life taking care of this stuff and maintaining it. I once heard somebody give a really good analogy about this. She basically, or he, I don't even remember, sort of said that everything in your home is asking for you to do something, right? Your houseplants are asking to be watered. Your books are asking to be read. The basket of laundry is being asked to be folded. The games are asking to be played. I think you get the point. The idea is everything in our home is asking something of us, right? So if we have too much in our home, we're being asked of a lot of things. Like there is too much on our plate to maintain. So I've really found that in general, getting rid of something and knowing that I may miss it or need it later is still better than having to be the person who is maintaining and spending my time keeping it. Number 4, and finally, I find that focusing on goals can really help me. So obviously, like wanting to be a tidier person is really going to help, but I find that one motivation that really pushes me is just wanting to have a home that's easier to maintain, that's not going to take as much of my time to take care of it. I don't want my whole life to be a slave to like taking care of my stuff. Like we sort of said before, I don't want to be the keeper of things. I actually heard Dawn from the Minimal Mom give a really good example where she said she wanted each room in her house to be less than 5 minutes from being able to be put away. So if you look at a space, you kind of need to ask yourself, like, what needs to leave this room if I want it to be a space that I can tidy in 5 minutes? Or what needs to leave this room if I want it to be a way easier space to maintain or to take care of? And I find these goals really help me too, because it helps me be aware when I have a certain room that is taking longer to maintain or it takes me longer to pick up. It's usually an indicator to me that that room has started to acquire too much stuff. All right, my friends, so that does it. That was sort of the one big secret I feel like I've really uncovered over probably like this last year of my journey of becoming a little bit more cleaner, you know, that really is can be the one culprit to me keeping my home or a space in my home tidy, is that there's just too much stuff. If there's too much stuff, it doesn't matter how clean I am, how many routines I have, I'm not going to be able to maintain it. This is not my full-time job to maintain this stuff. As always, I truly appreciate you guys stopping by and watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you all in my next video.